Aye. Be the Plume goons to start down, need permission, I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts for the cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare and show you where the house at. Spun the block, turns out I been black rock.
In part one, we explored TRM Labs and how it helps to stop criminals before they become tomorrow's headlines. And something happened during this exploration. I explored where the money was tied to. And it's not just scammers. Let me make sure that you know that. No, it's not. What happens when blockchain technologies intelligence begins exposing connections? Oh, you never know what it may reveal. And it's Plume Connection today. I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to give you a connection that has never been covered. Two, I'm going to explore what TRM Lab does in the network of Plume. And I'm going to give you a specific investigation that I have conducted. And I'm going to share with you some things that I think that you definitely don't know and you're going to want to find out. Now, these connections I exposed, I'm going to talk about sanctioned networks, cartel-linked flows, high-risk jurisdictions in the world, and some of the largest financial ecosystems operating in crypto today. Now, because this isn't just about a wallet address in Plume Network alone, it's going to require something that I know you have, and that is your intelligence, your patience, and you watching and putting this on a big screen television to follow along. You will do yourself a disservice if you don't put this on a large screen laptop. The visuals are made for you to see and follow the money. I'm going to do a live investigation with you today, ladies and gentlemen, on the Underdog Research channel. You're going to see it for your eyes. And it's about understanding more than just about Plume Network in the future. It's about the risk to these networks and the problem they resolve. And I'm going to show you how it originates, how the money moves across borders. I'm going to show you firsthand why institutions demand visibility of the money because of what I'm going to share with you. Before they deploy billions of dollars in these networks and these potential tokens that you may have in your wallet, don't you really want to know what they're looking for and whether or not Plume Network has what it takes to get that money? Well, it's going to happen today. TRM Lab's connection to Plume, I'm going to utilize a report that they did. TRM Labs 2026 report, crypto crime report, identified about $158 billion in illicit crypto flows. And for those people who don't want to use the high-tech words, that means bad, dirty money through crypto. Now, their intelligence networks in TRM Labs have helped to freeze about 400 million in criminal proceeds while monitoring activity spanning 5 continents. Over 1.3 million victims were reported. So this is what we're talking about here, folks. And this is why you need to understand what you have in your wallet with Plume Network. Now, this intelligence I give you is not for the weak of heart. It's not for the casual crypto viewer. This intelligence net will help you to find out the most striking revelations. I'm going to give you an example of TRM Labs analysts identified an exposure involving a network. And in the upcoming video, I'll talk about Iran. You know, currently the United States is in a conflict or a war. You call it what you want to with Iran. But this one today is about Venezuela. And you're going to say, Underdog, what does this have to do with Plume Network? I don't understand, Underdog. Why aren't you just telling me the price action? Because if you don't know where the money's flowing, how many times do I have to tell you? Follow the money, folks. And you can find out if this is something that you may find interest to holding. Now, Venezuela has been sanctioned. We know this. The United States sanctioned them. And other high-risk financial ecosystems will be explored today. But I'm going to focus on Venezuela because it should be still relevant because it's still relevant now. And I'm going to be converging the Underdog Research style research into TRM Labs report. I'm going to be showing you why I am a researcher, folks, not a content creator. And I'm going to be converging through shared infrastructure and international exchanges. And it's going to involve real world assets. How can that not be relevant? It's going to involve multiple high risk networks from Venezuela. And I want you to think. This requires you to think. I want you to think through this conversation about the power of this. Different countries, different actors, different objectives, yet the money, it still finds a way to move. And if it moves, Underdog is a dog on that bone. When it moves, I follow it and I find it. And I'm going to share with you what I found. This is one of the most controversial video series that I have ever created, and I'm happy to be doing it for you today. So sit back, get ready, share this to a big screen, press subscribe, press like, do what you need to do, but you want to miss this? No, you won't, because once you see what I share with you, you're going to be blown away. Now, let's talk about this. Let's find out why Plume Network is relevant and why compliant architecture matters and why TRM Labs matters to this conversation. Because we're building the future, ladies and gentlemen. Plume Network is trying to build the future of compliance through real world assets. Do you really know what that means? Institutional finance, tokenized assets, and real world assets. They go hand in hand. Now, you can't just build for speed to be the first in the market anymore. This is not the days of XRP being the first, the bank's first. This is the day of crypto, blockchain, real world assets, and tokenization now. I don't care about what happened then, but I will share with you some historical facts. And I'm going to build you up and speed you through this so you can see through it, but I'm going to walk you through step by step. So you can see what the underdog sees. Now, if you build something in reality, something sophisticated for the financial crime, it needs to matter across the borders. I'm going to share with you why it matters today. Now, today we're connecting the dots. I'm doing that for you. I'm connecting the dots. We're going deeper than anybody has. This is the #1 content creation for the project of Plume Network. No. This is the #1 channel for researchable information that teaches you how to fish, that makes you understand these concepts, finance, real world assets, geopolitical connections, and more, crime. I am an investigator, folks, and I'm in helping you to see what I see so you can see the perspective. Now, we're going to do this right now. I'm going to show you the intelligence layer of Plume Network, which is TRM Labs. That's why I'm doing this series about TRM Labs. We're going to go show you their visibility, compliance, and trust. And maybe if you're lucky, if you really pay attention, you do the things I've asked you to do, put it on big screen, you follow along, you look at the visuals, you listen, you go back and you study, you might be able to find out whether or not this is a technology that you think you should be holding on to. Some of the most valuable information you'll receive will be right here. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into it. So we are here and we are talking about TRM Labs and Plume, the Venezuela connection. I went to Venezuela. Oh, what's the connection, Underdog? Well, let me give you the connection. But before we give you this connection, let me tell you the sources. I'm so tired of people's opinion. I don't want opinions. You don't want opinions. Everybody got opinions, like a mouth. Everyone got one. We want resources. Bring us back to resources. So let me give you my sources of my information today. The primary source will be, first, the TRM Labs crime report, and then specifically the TRM Labs report on Venezuela and stablecoins. Second source is myself truly, Underdog Research channel. As a researcher, my research into a topic that I will present to you that connects to real world assets, stablecoins, Plume Network, TRM Labs, and the value ultimately of what they do to apply that knowledge to what you have so you can better understand what you have in your pocket. So before we talk about Venezuela, before we talk about Iran in my next video, before we talk about Plume Network, let's talk about compliance architecture. And we need to understand the problem, okay? On January 28th of 2026, what we see here is TRM Labs released its crime report. Now, this report identifies something that should get everyone's attention. A record 158 billion in illicit crypto flows moved through the digital asset economy in 2025. That reversed a multi-year decline and demonstrated how deeply crypto has become embedded in global financial systems. Now, think about the number for a second. $150 billion. That's not some hacker sitting in a basement somewhere and they're getting your MetaMask wallet. We're talking about $158 billion of illegal crypto flows monitored and captured by the company TRM Labs, which is the #1 law enforcement fighting tool of technology in the crypto space in the world. Why did it start to go up in 2025? And what does that matter now in 2026 and beyond when we're talking about real world assets and Plume Network? Does it matter? Compliance? Check it out, folks. This is not just a single scam. What we're talking about here is an entire shadow economy. Shadow economy. It used to sound like a conspiracy theory. I'm about to show you facts. Operating across borders, cross-border payments, right? This is a shadow economy, which I want to identify who are benefiting from this, across borders of countries, exchanges, when Binance, when Kraken, and others. Stablecoins, which are real world assets, and we'll talk about that. Sanction networks, that means that governments have sanctioned networks to not receive money. Organized crime groups and geopolitical actors. A big word for saying the politicians. Now, this is where most people completely miss the story because you are watching some content creator give you some lackluster, poorly put together dog dirt of content that they rolled out of bed to give you, and they put coin market cap on for a second, made some fake analysis, drew some squiggly lines, told you it's the MACD, and you are following them like salivating out your mouth because they just told you another lie. They missed this story because it takes real work, real research to reveal what I'm about to show you. The real battle isn't Bitcoin versus the banks. That's what they want you to believe. They mean the shadow economy I'm about to share with you. The real battle isn't trust versus risk. No, that's not the real battle. Because if institutions, the big companies that you want, are going to move billions of their dollars or eventually trillions of dollars in real world assets, tokenization, into that little project that you may have a couple $100 to $1,000 in and you're hoping to become rich. If they're going to do it, they need that tokenized assets and real world assets. They need to know one thing. What is it, Underdog? What's that one thing? Who is on the other side of the transaction? Yeah, I'm going to say it again. Who is on the other side of the transaction? That's what the institutions want to know. Now, you think, who cares? The big wigs do. Because that's why TRM Labs exist. And as we move in this part 2 of the TRM Labs Plume Network connection, I'm going to be going and looking at this data. You can't avoid it. It's going to be right there in your face. You can Google it. You can screenshot it. You can record Underdog saying it. You can get my video. I'm going to share with you real stats, real information. I'm going to connect it all the way down to the Plume Network itself, because they're building an economy for real world assets. So don't you need to know about how illegal things happen on these very networks, which prevents institutions by law and regulation from putting their money into these ecosystems that Plume Network's building? They have to secure the network. And the security of it, I'm going to give you an example through Venezuela. Now, it's going to be fascinating for me. It might not be fascinating for some people. For me, this is fascinating because what I revealed today is what I discovered through my research. I wasn't expecting to see, but we had inklings, some of us, but now you're going to get facts. Now, how high-risk financial infrastructure, stablecoins, and Venezuela's oil ecosystem have to do with this video? As I talk about this day, I want you to know there's an intersection that I discovered. I was looking at crypto. I found oil. Now you're thinking, we know that. No. I was looking for crypto. I found oil, folks. And most investors don't realize the connection to the token that you bought on Coinbase or from a decentralized exchange and its connection to the bigger picture. But let's expose it. If something happens to Underdog, I was feeling good. I was happy, not depressed. So if I just disappear on you, you know what they did. They got their lick back on me for exposing this truth. Let me give you this truth, folks. And once you see it, you'll understand why I made a whole series about this TRM Labs Plume Network and why Plume Network built compliance directly into the foundation of its ecosystem. And I'm going to use TRM Labs to show you. So let's get to it. Before we go into the meat of my investigation, I need to establish some foundational knowledge. We got to meet eye to eye on something that a lot of people don't know. At first glance, when you think of Plume Network, you think it's just another stablecoin. But I want you to understand what a stablecoin is. Plume has a token, this utility token that you probably have called the Plume Network token, aka Plume, ticker symbol, $ PLUME. But they have a stablecoin as well that they use also within their economy called the PUSD, the Plume stablecoin. Now, why do we have stablecoins? And what is a stablecoin? It's a digital dollar, a way to make payments faster, a way to trade assets on chain. But if that's all you see, you're missing the bigger story. This PUSD, Plume stablecoin, and in many ways, it represents a bridge between traditional finance and the next generation of real world assets. Think about it. This PUSD, like digital cash operating inside the Plume ecosystem, has its value pegged to $1. When institutions eventually tokenize assets, such as real estate assets, private credit, treasury products, commodities, and other real-world assets, they need a trusted medium of exchange. Plume Network token is going to be too volatile, so they need a stable coin. PUSD is a stable coin, and a stable coin, by nature of representation of real world money, is a real world asset. So every time you hear anybody talk about a stable coin, as long as the stable coin is pegged with a real world dollar amount, like the US dollar or whatever thing that's pegging it to, stable coins are the first, most used, and the most abundant use case of a real world asset. We just have categorized them as stable coins for short, but stable coins are real world assets, and PUSD, Plume's ecosystem, has two tokens. One is its PUSD stablecoin pegged with the dollar. The other is Plume token, which you may have bought on Coinbase. You can swap PUSD for Plume token and vice versa, Plume token for PUSD. So now I want you to understand the ecosystem of Plume Network when we talk about Nest product And Nest product has vaults which give you yield. It connects to BlackRock and Blackstone and Hampton Lane and many other, Ondo and many other big names. They have PUSD and Plume token, and TRM Labs secures that network. So this conversation is so relevant because we need to understand what the institutions look as signal that will get them to drop trillions because we are in compliance with the laws to keep the thing that I'm going to show you today from happening. Because this is what the nature of what's happening now is. And I'm going to use the Venezuela example. So when we start, I told you in a previous conversation that in September of 2025, it was announced on TRM Labs that they took on another of their 45 tokens that they secure in Plume Network. They announced it, TRM Labs. Then in October the 7th of 2025, after they had already taken on Plume, they made another public announcement in their updates on their page. However, it wasn't until, dates matter, folks, January of 21st of 2026, I'm going to read only the first paragraph here. Plume Network post for the network provides network level transaction monitoring and is a coordinating conjunction between two parts of a sentence for my grammar majors. Enforcement while predicate applies app level anti-money laundering and, again, folks, and is a coordinating conjunction to connect another part of the sentence. Sanctions policy checks on Nest using TRM Labs. So Nest is a product which is connected to Securitize, which is connected to BlackRock. BlackRock has a product called Build, B-U-I-D-L, which consists of 7 cryptocurrencies, and those are connected to the Nest products and Securitize. Hamilton Lane has a product for credits, and those are also connected, and many others. So now we see the connection. So when TRM Labs has now told you in October and September of 2025 that they got this, institutions, how are you securing our money, Plume Network? We are utilizing the world's most proficient law enforcement tool, TRM Labs. Show us the money. While others can't say that, which is the problem if you're holding that project. Now, when you peel back all the fluff of that statement by Plume in January 21st, 2026, it identifies for you 4 key things. Their network is secured with for the network predicate TRM Labs number 3 and EY Nightfall. Privacy, security, app layer, anti-money laundering policy, and network scanning. All working in conjunction for whom? The institutional investor. For why? Because they want to know who's on the other end of the transaction. They want to know where the money will go and if it's safe, and will they be sanctioned or fined if they have intermingling of dirty money. Hence the name of this, the connection between TRM Labs, Plume Network Part 2, the dirty money, folks. Venezuela. Why did it matter? Let's see the connection. So, as we see in this report, we have a lot to get through. So before I start, let me share something with you. I'm going to introduce again TRM Labs, and I'm going to introduce their CEO to you because it's going to be important that we discuss cross-border contamination of money that is happening right now, increasing to billions in 2025. What was the administration that was in office in every country in the United States? Who is in office? What administration? Ask the same question for Japan, China, also Europe, Iran, and any other countries. Who was in office? Why is there an increase? Let's talk about the money that you need to know about so you can know whether or not Plume Network is a project that you need to see and have in your wallet. This is TRM Labs. This is what they said.
Hi, I'm Esteban Castaño, CEO of TRM Labs. Today, border agencies are facing new challenges as criminals change their tactics. Drug cartels, human traffickers, and terrorist groups are increasingly using cryptocurrency to move illicit funds across borders. Many criminals still believe that crypto is anonymous and untraceable. But the reality is that with software like TRM Labs, law enforcement can trace cryptocurrency in real time. I've spoken with many officers on the front lines. Today, they're finding crypto in even more unexpected places than in years past. I've heard border officers share stories of coming across a strip of paper with a crypto identifier during a routine search. Sometimes it's a crypto ATM receipt, a hardware wallet tucked away in a suitcase, or even a handwritten seed phrase in a notebook. Until now, the crypto wallet didn't serve investigative value. There's critical financial intelligence that's being missed because law enforcement didn't have the tools to triage that evidence. This need from law enforcement was why we developed TRM Triage, purpose-built for frontline investigators. It allows you to search cryptocurrency evidence on your mobile phone, understand the significance of it, and get actionable steps on how to handle the evidence effectively. You can, for instance, snap a photo of a crypto identifier at a port of entry, instantly see the transaction volume, current portfolio holdings, any related entities, and if there are any historical transactions linked to illicit activity like drug trafficking, terror financing, or human smuggling. And for more complex cases, for instance, if the wallet has activity that looks like money laundering, you can escalate the evidence to a specialist who can use TRM forensics to trace the funds and determine the next steps. At TRM Labs, we're turning what once seemed like invisible financial activity into real-time actionable intelligence. We help law enforcement move faster, act smarter, and disrupt criminal networks before they become larger threats.
So we just heard from the CEO of TRM Labs that now criminals who used to believe that illicit money laundering, human trafficking, terrorist organization, drug cartels, moving money cross-border, state actors, sanction avoiders, there's a tool now that can capture this data to show you who's behind the transactions, where it was not as easy before. So the criminal minds are scared, folks. But history doesn't forget, because they thought that they were smarter than the technology, but the technology now knows who they are. And this makes a point, which is going to be needed as you go through today. Don't forget cross-border sanctions, criminal activity, and TRM Labs. Why is it important? Because Plume Network is creating economy for the big companies. So we need to see it in action. Let me show you the difference between Plume Network and the other projects by TRM Labs. This is just one example. I didn't mention Forta yet. I didn't mention Predicate yet. I didn't mention EY Nightfall. They all serve their individual purposes. This is a TRM Labs conversation. So now let's get into the discussion of Venezuela by keeping this in mind from the CEO of TRM Labs, the purpose. Now, this is where the story starts really telling us an interesting thing, folks. This is where the story most people don't know about. They think that crypto is about crypto crime is about one company and one exchange, and they think that it's about one government, but that's not it. That's not it at all. In fact, there's a whole agency of technology, and I just mentioned you four working together. There's a bigger picture in reality. And what is that bigger picture? TRM Labs has built intelligence sharing networks, and they connect to law enforcement, financial institutions. They connect to crypto companies and investigators like myself across the globe. And think of it like a neighborhood watch program for your blockchain technology. But the entire ecosystem on the crypto ecosystem is covered through TRM Labs. Now here, I'm going to share this with you. Let me share this with you. Let's put this into reality. Think about this. Put this on your screens. Pay attention. Read along with me. I'm going to read it out loud and I'm going to explain it. T3 Financial Crime Unit continues global crackdown on illicit crypto flows. Check out the date, folks. On May 14th of 2026, T3 Financial Crime Unit, T3FCU, a joint initiative by, listen to the names, folks, Tether, TRON, and is a coordinating conjunction, meaning there's additional information on the other end of the sentence. Let's get back to it. And TRM Labs announced today that it has frozen over 450 million in illicit assets globally, strengthening regulatory collaboration to target cryptocurrency-related financial crimes. Again, folks, I told you to put this on big screen. This is just a start. I'm going to be hitting you all day long. So while I'm talking, share it, to your screen, put it on a laptop. You're going to want to see these visuals. Who are the players there? Tether, TRON, and TRM Labs. Now, this matters. Think about it. Nearly $500 million stopped before it could continue moving through the financial systems. And here's what makes this part important. Tether is reporting this to you. TRON and TRM Labs. T3, now you know something new you didn't know before. T3 is the name of those two. Tether, TRON, TRM Labs. T3, that's the three together. T3 is a partnership between Tether, TRON, and TRM Labs. And I'm going to share some things that are going to shock you, because sometimes the enemy of my friend is my friend, but sometimes you might be on both sides of who is the helpful person and who is the enemy. Now check this out. When I look at this partnership, what I see in simple terms is, imagine three security teams protecting the same city. One provides financial infrastructure, one provides blockchain network, and one provides the intelligence. Together, they're hunting the money, following the transactions, identifying bad actors, and disrupting the criminal activity before it spreads. Now, here's why it matters to our Plume discussion. I'm just warming up, folks. Can I warm up? Can I warm up? Let me tell you why it matters to Plume. Because when we look at this, the future of finance isn't being built by technology alone. It's being built by ecosystems and the partnerships, intelligence sharing, and organizations working together to identify the risk before institutions put the capital at risk. Before BlackRock puts their money, $14 trillion at risk, they are looking at what you can do to protect the money. Doesn't it make sense? Because billions, eventually trillions of dollars move on chain, and institutions are still asking, can the technology work? They're not just asking that. They're asking, can we trust the environment we're entering? So as we talk about the Genius Act, the Stablecoin Act, we're talking about the Act for Clarity. It doesn't matter if the ecosystem, the project, the company is not prepared. Is the project you have in your pocket prepared like Plume? If they're not, then let me share with you the problem. That's why I'm doing this today. They want to know institutions, can they trust them? And that's exactly the problem TRM Labs was built to solve. Not just tracking transactions on a ledger. We're talking about putting the creation of the ecosystem where legitimate participants are operating while bad actors are identified and removed from the ecosystem. We don't want that dirty money, but the dirty money wants you to wash it. Dirty money seeks you to wash it, folks. It seeks you like Lord of the Rings for those a little bit older. My precious. Dirty money wants to be cleaned. And if the networks that are supposed to be clean networks clean the dirty money, they will be fined, they will be sanctioned, they will be shut down. If the companies that you have invested your money into are not prepared and they allow these transactions to happen after the congressional laws go in place, then they will be hurt, they will be sanctioned, they will be fined, they will fail. They will fail and you will lose everything. So you better bet on the horses that are putting the compliance in place. Now, as we look at this example today that I go through, that I'm going to help you see for your own eyes, where I want to share with you a real world investigation I conducted into Venezuela. Some of the most important financial activity in crypto isn't happening where most people are looking. But I'm going to help you to see why the ecosystem must be legitimate and how people are using these ecosystems as bad actors and identifying how it's being moved. And I'm going to do something else that I may get taken off online for. I'm going to show you the wizard behind Oz, behind some of the Venezuela's activity. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to show you. I'll show you a correlation. That's it. I'll let you use the seat of your pants wisdom to put it all together. So we know that stable coins are real world assets. We know this. The question is, who's using it? A family sending money overseas can use stable coins. An institution can use stable coins. But so can sanctioned actors, criminal organizations, and high-risk financial fraud organizations and networks. That's why visibility matters. That's why compliance matters. And that's why I'm doing this whole conversation on Plume Network that no one has ever done with TRM Labs, showing you the integration in the technology, showing you their partnership, showing you why it matters, because TRM Labs is looking into the ecosystem and they are connected to the highest law enforcement organizations in the world. FBI, DHS, HSI, you name it, they're in it. So if you want to know whether or not this is legit, if it's a scam or scheme, you wanted to look at someone on CoinMarketCap post something on the comments page for community posts to be your guide in what you use or buy or sell, go ahead and do it. If you want real world information, watch the Underdog Research channel. Watch me work, folks. Let's see why Plume Network should be considered, and let's see what TRM Labs does for them. Because if you're building the future, and real world assets on chain, as Plume Network says they're doing, let's test it. You need to know who's driving the highway before you get into it, right? We need to know that. We need to see for ourselves firsthand, because trillions of dollars are at risk, folks. And we want that trillions of dollars to go to it on Plume Network, and it won't go to it on Plume Network. But let me tell you now where my Venezuela story begins. Are you ready? This is the whole video. Let's get into it. I'm going to start you off with an article. Don't worry. I'm going to put it on big screen for you. I have taken this article, a report made by TRM Labs, a non-biased party who is law enforcement connected. So this is a law enforcement report based on TRM Labs. They use this in law enforcement. Is what I'm trying to say to you. This is their report. Let me share with you what they said. So this is where the story takes a surprising turn on this coverage on Underdog Research channel. Now, according to TRM Labs, stable coins weren't just used for trading. They have become a part of a much larger cross-border financial system tied to sanction pressure, oil markets, and alternative settlement networks. So we're going to talk about sanctions, TRM Labs. We're going to talk about stable coins. And I'm going to ask you to remember what I've been telling you, that the stable coin is a what? It is the first, the proven, and the most reliable known real world asset, because it's a digital representation of a real world dollar. That makes it a real world asset. So that stops separating this into stablecoins, the conversation is still about RWAs. We're discussing stablecoins. We're discussing this report. Now let's look at this report. Now look at this, folks. Let's break down what we just saw here in the top part of this report. I want you to know where the data is coming from. Let's break down what we see here. I'm going to read it for you. This is what it says. High-risk financial infrastructure and stablecoins are likely used in oil settlements. Venezuela's digital asset activity, while often driven by macroeconomic necessity, it also operates within an increasingly complex web of cross-border financial infrastructure. In 2025, let me look at you right in the eyes because I know you heard me. Didn't y'all remember I told you at the very beginning? I'll go back to it because I feel like y'all think that I'm just pulling this out of nowhere. Let's go back to it again. Didn't I tell you in this crime report that as of TRM's crime report in 2026, on January 28, 2026, TRM Labs stated that they identified in a crime report a record number, that's mean the most ever, 158 billion in illicit crypto flows moved through digital asset economy in 2025. I didn't make this up. Real world assets, 158 billion. The numbers matter, the dates matter. Who's in office? I won't keep saying it. I won't get off of it. I'm a dog on bone. I go where the research goes. I'm not biased. I go where the research goes. Why is it increasing? This crime report, why is it increasing? Let's get back to it. So, as I said here, as I left off, in 2025, stable coins such as USDT, central to domestic financial activity and informal FX settlement, but were also observed in transactions that mirror alternative settlement mechanisms used in heavily sanctioned jurisdiction. So we're connecting the dots, folks. Venezuela is this report, the 2025 TRM Labs report about $158 billion. Their general statement that globally they found that there was $158 billion increase. This is in 2025, the most ever. And they found that this increase in the use of stable coins, which is the real world assets, were happening in heavily sanctioned countries like Venezuela. Isn't Iran sanctioned? Isn't Russia sanctioned? And many more. Shouldn't we likely look into this if we want to know what's holding up the progression? Because dirty money can't mix in with your money. North Korea money can't mix in with good networks. If it does, the anti-money laundering sanctions will come in play, and the institutions who allow their money to be mixed are laundering and will be fined and shut down by most government organizations. This matters. So let's get into it, folks. I told you we're going to do research around here. So we found out that intermediaries operating in and around Venezuela have likely engaged in digital asset activity involving stablecoins. In context, it's consistent with oil-linked trade flows. In context, it's consistent with oil-linked trade flows. Y'all not hearing me? Do I have to take off my jacket again? Last time I had to take off my jacket. Do I have to bust someone out this jacket? The connection that they're seeing, $158 billion in the crypto market, is being affected with sanctioned countries and oil. Let's go further. Oil-linked trade flows. These patterns appear to reflect structural adaptations to limited access by the sanctioned companies and countries to traditional dollar channels and banking infrastructure. In some cases, this activity routes through regional high-risk exchanges Y'all know what that is? That's the networks. Now, I'm not going to say the network is Coinbase. I'm going to use Coinbase as my example. It's saying if the countries can't send the money through stable coins and intermediaries, those are people, they will use exchanges that they have control of in their country to launder the money that's supposed to be sanctioned. Oh, folks, y'all not ready for this conversation. Now, we're going through it. In some cases, activity routes through high regional risk exchanges or regional international exchanges in multiple jurisdictions. So now we see a huge connection. So let's talk about it. Let's break that down, this first part of this article. So breaking this down, what TRM Lab is doing, what we're seeing is here is because they are saying things are starting to get a little bit interesting with this money. Notice what TRM is saying. They're saying this happening in Venezuela, they're using stable coins. And not only they're using stable coins, but Venezuela was highly sanctioned. So they're using stable coins for the illegal aspects of using money they shouldn't receive. But it's tied to their oil. And I'm going to show you that deeper connection of why that's tied to their oil. What they say in this article, TRM Labs, is that stablecoins were observed through their reports and activity of the networks that they use with their technology to increase 158 billion globally. But in Venezuela, Venezuela was using stablecoins as an alternate means to get paid because the money wasn't flowing. And mechanisms used were heavily sanctioned environments. So think about it. When traditional banking channels are closed off, people are restricted. People in countries don't just stop moving money, folks. They use crypto. They look for an alternate route. And the real world assets is that alternate route. It's the closing, the major highway of money, which is a sanction. And traffic doesn't just disappear. The cars are still there, folks. So when we look at this, if money is going to be found on the side of the road, no, it has to keep flowing. And so according to TRM Labs, stablecoins such as USDT, Tether may have become part of those alternative financial routes. So even something that's good because remember that T3, Tether, TRON, and TRM Labs? TRM Labs is a technology. TRON is a blockchain. Tether is a real world asset blockchain technology. They kind of work in both good and used for nefarious means. People will always find a way to defraud and move money. So the same T3 organization that's investigating the crime identified that they may inadvertently be used to use illicit assets illegally. That won't fly in the new economy that we want to build. So let's look at Venezuela, because they were facing sanction pressures and limited access to traditional dollar amounts and the infrastructure. So a digital asset was convenient for them. They could use it to globally move trillions, billions of dollars in minutes, and it becomes very attractive. And that's what I want you to see. This is why I'm doing a Venezuela story. This isn't just a part of the story. This is the story. This is the connection with Plume Network. You can see TRM Labs in action in a real way. And we can see how they protected the Plume Network from these type of illicit activities, which would cause TRM Labs network that they're trying to protect to be sanctioned if dirty money gets mixed in, because the dirty money tries to get clean. Now, as we preview through the blockchain, TRM Labs does this, and it gets intelligence and exists in the first place. And it becomes a conversation about how the money begins to flow through these digital highways. Now you're starting to see Plume Network as more than just a top conversation about a token. It is literally you having to understand that the ecosystem, what it connects to, and what the problem it resolves. Big money, $158 billion of dirty money needs a place to go to be cleaned. Wherever the weak networks are, they will clean their money, and that network is at risk of being sanctioned, fined, and destroyed, and with it, your investment. It's bigger than price action, folks. Funds originating from bad places and bad people doing bad things, from human trafficking, terrorism, can hurt you on the back end or the front end. Or, as we found out in the first video, it can knock at your door. Now, this is the problem TRM Labs was built to solve. And the next slide, I'm going to go further, and I'm going to go deeper into this evaluation to finally seeing the full transactions. I'll lay bare to you for you to see it, and you can observe what I observe and see the timing and the spikes caught my attention, and we're going to see the same things caught their attention. So let's look at this. Now, before I'm going to give my warning, this is my disclaimer, because I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. And correlation is not causation always. I have to say that because I am bound with the ethics of knowing that I spent a great deal of time in creating this, but I'm sure that someone can go deeper and deeper and find other causation factors which may be directly contradicting what I'm sharing with you. So with that, take it as educational information, take its weight based on what I show you, and you use your own wisdom to determine if Underdog has found something or if you want to disregard it. That is your decision. So let's talk about this before I go further. What I'm not claiming here is that the correlation is the causation. What I'm simply highlighting is a timing overlap that I observed as a researcher investigating Plume Network and TRM Labs. This revealed to me what I believe deserves further discussion and independent review. What I believe is everything presented here today from this point forward and above is from publicly available information for you to look at. And for the first time, we're combining two data sets into a single visual analysis. As always, I want you to verify the sources yourself, draw your own conclusions, and let's follow the evidence wherever it leads. We've got to do that. So the two things you're going to see today, this point forward, is this. You're going to see TRM Labs observation, their crime report about specifically Venezuela. They are a law enforcement organization. Software is utilized by many law enforcement organizations, hundreds, and globally, the #1 in their space. And you're going to have Underdog Researchers research on independent timeline analysis of U.S. enforcement actions of oil tanker seizures and pressure campaigns during this same time period from the United States and Venezuela. And then I overlapped this into something new that wasn't created before. This has never been done. That's public, at least. So I have put both the crypto and the oil together. I want you to see what I found. This is what we're going to do. Let's start with the slide. So this graph right here is going to show you a lot. At first glance, you might not recognize it. This is where it's coming from. The total value received from Venezuela in crypto. So as we look at this, I want you to pay attention. So as we look at this where you have for you. Now let's look at the actual activity caught by TRM Labs, what came to their attention. On the left-hand side, we see the ledger. You can see there on the axis and y-axis, you can see the y-axis shows you the incoming volume in US dollars and millions. The x-axis shows you the date time frame chronologically, or you will see from June all the way to January, starting in 2024 to 2025. But if we look closer, I found more. From June through September, activity is relatively quiet. Notice that. And then suddenly in October and November, something changes. And that's what I want you to see. So we see right there that there is incoming volume explodes. Folks, incoming volume explodes. Why? In 2025. From 2024 transition, what happened in 2024? I guess we'll put two and two together and see if we can find out. And something happens, something changes, and illicit money, $158 billion that's focused on Venezuela, though, something happens. Multiple spikes push into the 6, 7, and even 8 million range in Venezuela. Now, this chart alone doesn't tell us exactly who sent the money to Venezuela or why, but that's not the point. What makes this interesting to Underdog and what makes it interesting is the pattern. Think of it like a heart monitor, folks, when we look at it. If someone's heartbeat suddenly spikes, you don't automatically know the cause. Did they get scared? Are they having a heart issue? But you know something happened on your monitor. If you have a smartwatch and you go to the gym every day, you should see that while at work, if you're sitting at a job where you sit down, your heart rate is fairly stable with a little fluctuation. But when you go to the gym, if you look at that chart, you see a spike. That's a signal. Crypto, stablecoins, if we have RWAs, which we know is a stablecoin, and there's sanctioned countries who are being reviewed, $158 billion, and all of a sudden, October of 2025, there is a spike from the norm. June, July, August, September, look at how relatively low it is, folks. And then all of a sudden, there's a spike. Something happened. We don't have to be experts. We can just use the seat of our pants wisdom to see that something happened here, folks. What happened here? That's what a researcher does. I look for clues. I look for evidence, and boy, did I find it. Unusual behavior, unexpected volume, patterns that stand out to me from the baseline. June to September of 2024 is my baseline. Explain this, folks. Now, according to TRM analysis of this, these spikes appeared alongside activity involving stablecoins. And every time I say stablecoins, I'm going to now start saying real world assets, because we understand those two are synonymous. They mean the same thing. So I'm going to stop using words that are not correctly identifying the thing. Alongside activity of real world assets in Venezuela in the use of stablecoins, they see this spike. And alternative settlements mechanisms occurred, and financial infrastructure associated with Venezuela's broader economic environment. That's what I'm looking at. Now, here's the question institutions want to know, because that's what we want to know, because we want the money to flow to us, right? This is what they immediately ask. What caused this spike? Don't you want to know? I'm going to reveal it today. Because when millions of dollars, $6, $7, $8 million spikes in a country, all of a sudden, it starts to move the money. We follow the money wherever it may go. Like a dog on meat, Underdog's on that money. Because I want to share it with you, because maybe you can find signal in this and you can know where the money is going and what projects to avoid that might be intermingling with that money, or the risk. Because I'm telling you, if that dirty money gets washed, because it's always seeking to get washed, like my precious, if it gets washed in your network, whether it's Tether, whether it's TRON, whether it's something that you just love, XRP, I don't care what the project is. If that dirty money gets mixed in, intermingled, woo, you can kiss your profits goodbye when sanctions and regulation goes in. So that's why compliance first matters. So let's get into it. Now, when we look at this overlay that I just showed you right here, what I want you to see, the point I want to make here is that as we look at this, what we're seeing here is the network, and understanding the source of that activity becomes just as important as tracking the money itself, the source of that activity. And when we overlay the activity with the real world events, sanction pressure in energy markets, the picture becomes very clear and just even more interesting. Y'all ready to see what Underdog found? Because I'm about to share it with you. I told you to put this on big screen. If you like this type of deep conversations better than this coin market cap and price predictions, then you want a real researcher, then press subscribe at this time. If you want to become a member to get access to videos like this that are not publicly released, go ahead and become a member at the analyst level. That is the highest membership, and you get videos that are to my members. With that being said, you get my research today. Let's show you what I found. Now, here's the question I want you to ask. Institutions are asking me the same question, or asking the same question, I should say. What caused this spike in Venezuela in October of 2025? Because when millions of dollars suddenly spike from 2024, barely nothing, to 6, 7, 8 million, and begin moving through their networks of real world assets, understanding the source of this activity becomes just as important as tracking money itself. Here's my 3 takeaways from this. So let me read it for you, and then you'll see the takeaways, and then I'm gonna go even deeper. We're gonna go deeper and deeper through the layers, peeling it off like an onion until you finally come to the conclusion that it's unavoidable and why it matters to Plume Network. Now let's talk about Venezuela and why it matters. Venezuela's key network takeaways to crypto connection on December 10th of 2025, the U.S. seized a large oil tanker off Venezuela's coast for alleged sanction evasions, escalating pressure of the president's regime in Venezuela and underscoring why, amid rising illicit activity, it is important to understand the country's economic collapse, authoritarian rule, narcotics-linked financial networks, and growing role of cryptocurrency in both legitimate use and sanction evasion. In the absence of reliable domestic banking channels of Venezuela, crypto has become embedded in Venezuela's dollarized economy as an everyday mechanism for storing value and moving money. Widespread stablecoin use, real-world assets, particularly Tether, is driven by hyperinflation, limited access to reliable banking by the country, and ongoing need for cross-border remittance and informal settlement tools. Informal PDP markets and person-to-person market frameworks and regulatory environments complicate oversight and transparency. What did you find out? Just because something can be good doesn't mean that thing that can be good cannot be used for the bad. That's going to be a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn. That goes for not only stable coins and crypto, which I absolutely am an advocate for. It goes for people. Just because someone's in a position and you believe in your heart that they are good, people can also do bad things. Here they talk about the Venezuela president who had crime, drug, fentanyl, the things that we don't want to come in, poppy seed, opium, linked money in billions linked to their economy. And guess where it went? Just like the traffic jam, it didn't stop. It flew through Tether. And Tether is the part of the same team investigating. Remember T3, Tether, TRON, and TRM Labs. Just because something is good and we advocate for it, we can't turn a blind side that it can be used for nefarious means. This lesson, remember as I go through this. So we see this dual-edged sword. And just to put it all together, I just want to really make sure you understand TRM Labs stablecoins have become deeply embedded in Venezuela's economy. A country that's facing heavy sanctions is facing inflation like we're seeing in the United States. It's facing banking limitations like we're seeing in the United States. Economic stability is important, and digital assets are beautiful things, in my opinion, but they are still involved in this illicit work. And we can't just turn a blind eye to it. If you truly are passionate about the crypto becoming something mainstream, you have to get the bad actors out. That's what TRM Labs is doing. And that's why when it's connected to Plume Network's Nest, who's connected to Securitize and BlackRock and Blackstones, you want to be in companies who are advocating the same thing you want. Your interests are online, not ones who ignore it, because this is what can happen. Venezuela is an example. This speculative investment that you have called Plume Network is not as speculative when you think about how many products do not integrate these safeguards for compliance. Now, this is a practical tool used with TRM Labs, and it shows you where money's moving, good or bad. It's not biased. It's going to identify it. And I've identified one for you that's going to really wake you up, folks, to understand once. Look, folks, let me tell you this. Every few years, there's an election, and we all have our political parties that we may or may not be a part of. I myself as an independent, I vote my mind and my conscience. But regardless of that, we need to see the full picture. If you allow yourself to be lied to or not knowledgeable, and some people may say even ignorant blindly, you're part of the problem. So I want to share this with you because you need to understand that the technologies that you buy in blockchain technologies, they're going to change in value depending on who's in office, what's administration, what's happening, what safeguards. You can't ignore this. So I want you to get that piece. So let's go into this next part, and then I'm going to show you some things that are going to shock you. Crypto globally, I need you to see that it's a highway. Plume Network has built a highway. The network, a Plume Network, say it again, Plume Network, keyword network, has built an ecosystem economy for institutional investors, the big ones, and it has to be in compliance. So TRM Lab is watching the signals on the road. They are the stop sign, the red, the yellow, the green. They're watching the network that Plume Network has built. They're watching nearly everything, 99.9% of everything goes through for who's transporting it. Even if it's in containers, the network it came from, who had it first, before it gets the dirty money on the highway. They're stopping it before it gets to its destination because they know that dirty money mixes in with Plume Network, and Plume Network is at risk. You don't want the dirty money, folks. I promise you, you don't. I don't care how much it is. You don't want it. Someone may have lost their life for that. Somebody might be slave traded for that. There is children being affected by that. There's drugs being affected, but you don't want the dirty money. And TRM Labs helps to protect Plume Network. And funds can move from places like Venezuela to an exchange through stablecoins. The same thing that we advocate for can be used this way, folks, across multiple blockchain mechanisms into completely different jurisdictions within minutes. Which brings me to the first challenge. Funds can move this way. And the challenge is finding the transactions that have these illicit funds. And we're going to use Venezuela as an example, but I want you to challenge to understanding the entire network has to be protected at all times because there's risk here. That's where the Plume connection really takes off. Plume Network becomes interesting to me because Plume built an infrastructure designed for those real world assets, those stable coins that are being used globally, and they are going to be a big player in the new ecosystem that's coming. That's already here for the most part, if you think about it, for institutional adoption. And those institutions are asking Plume, how do you keep Venezuela type money from us? We don't want the drug money. We have $14 trillion in real world assets that are clean money as mostly. I want to make sure that people understand that with BlackRock, they don't want the dirty money if they can avoid it. So institutions need confidence and they can identify risk before it becomes a headline. They're going to do it. Because then when billions and eventually trillions of dollars move onto Plume Network, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about it is not optional. These tokens that you have must serve a purpose. They must have value or they are worthless. I don't care what the content creator says. They must have value. The foundation of Plume Network must be based on trust, that institutions can trust. They can put their clients' money into it without it being lost. Doesn't that make sense to you? So when we're talking about this, there's a high conflict transaction that I'm about to show you, and it's gonna hurt you. I want you to stay tuned in because what I'm about to show you, some people is going to hurt. And I don't want you to be hurt, but I gotta show you what Underdog found when I followed this conversation. I was looking for crypto, but I found something much more. So TRM Labs can see across 184 blockchains, as you can see here, folks. Look at this. They can see billions of addresses, individual wallets. But the question becomes, what exactly were we seeing with the Venezuela? And what caused them to have this spike of $6, $7, and $8 million? What's the connection to the oil-linked activity and the high-risk financial infrastructure in the first place? Don't you want to know? This creates a clean bridge for us to look at Venezuela as an example while we can reinforce the very nature of what we need to know, why Plume is doing what it's doing. Remember, Plume integrated Nest Plume integrated TRM Labs September of 2025. TRM Labs told us that. Plume told you on January 21st, 2026, that they secured their network, Nest, which is connected for institutional investors with Forward Technologies. I'll say again, Forward Network, Predicate, EY Nightfall, which is Ernst & Young using zero knowledge proof technologies. And now today coverage is on TRM Labs. I have covered the other three for my members only. Please go check that out by becoming a member. You can see that this is my mini series about TRM Labs because what you need to know is going to shock you. So let's bridge this now into Venezuela. Folks, stay with me. Get through to the end because it's going to be shocking. While I need to show you the connection to Plume, I go where the evidence takes me. Let me show you what I found. The next 4 slides I show you, I'm going to walk you through a timeline. I'm going to walk you through it. I have no bias other than to share with you information you can search for yourself when you get off of this review. I give you that premise because we are biased by nature as humans, and sometimes you don't want to hear the information. I am here talking about Plume Network, so I'm talking about real world assets because that's their product. It's a crypto topic. I provide crypto related topics. That is my point. You said you don't want FUD. You say you don't want hype. You don't want to be shielded to. This is what I've been doing. This is data. I'm going to share with you the data. Now, let me read this for you. Polymarket insider on Venezuela bet allegedly linked to Trump World Liberty Financial, January 5th of 2026. Now let's connect the dots. I've stated it before in 2025. I started seeing inklings of warning signals about World Liberty Financial. After conducting my research, I am seeing smoke. The only logical thing that I can assume without seeing behind closed doors that I don't have access to is there is either a fire, a brewing, there will be a fire in the future, or it will be completely on fire within the next 2 years. I highly encourage every single person to use your own wisdom, research on your own to make a determination because I will not give you financial advice. But for me, this confirmed some things that I wasn't looking for, but it is in my face that I cannot ignore. Let's connect these dots. Now, following the money in this investigation, I was looking for crypto, but let's start with some dates and speak for themselves, okay? January 5th, 2026, Polymarket. This was written, an article, Insider, on Venezuela bet allegedly linked to Trump World Liberty Financial. Here's this article. It was reported on multiple sources. Now, January 6, 2026, another article says an article surfaces and it alleges a connection between Venezuela prediction market insider and networks associated with World Liberty Finance. Now, keep that date in mind, folks. January 5th, January 6th. Keep those dates in mind because the timeline is about to get very interesting, okay? Now, just 24 hours later, another headline appears. January 7th, 2026. This time, the focus shifts from prediction markets to financial incentives. Could actions taken against Venezuela have created winners in the connected crypto markets? Whether the answer is yes or no is not the point. At this stage, we have 3 things. We have a Venezuela-related prediction market article on January 5th. We have an alleged World Liberty Financial connection. We have now a major publication discussing potential financial benefits tied to Venezuela-related events. The next question I cannot ignore is what happens next. This is the point where some people are going to log off because you are biased from hearing what I'm about to tell you, but I just go where the money goes. I was following the money, folks, had no idea what I was going to find, but I found some things that you need to see. The point of the timeline keeps things more interesting to me. I want you to understand in the poly market conversation, the discussion on hand is in the 11th hour before conflict in Venezuela, some insider Polygon bets occurred, causing millions of dollars by a very, 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 very small group of people to benefit from. And it went to certain wallets. And we'll leave it at that. With the January 7th, 2026, we have the attacks on Venezuela and seizure of oil, which occurred. The 5th, the 6th, and the 7th reported. I got to go back to the top, and I'm going to go all the way back to the top because it's important. And that's to go back to what we originally said at the very beginning of this. The 2026, January 28, 2026 crime report. What did we learn? We learned that $158 billion was reported by TRM Labs in the crime report. And it specifically identified the use of the digital asset economy increased substantially in 2025 over multiple year declines up until we see 2025. And then they went further as we started this, and I'm going to share the same thing with you that they told you here with Tether, T3, that they found $400 million in illicit funds. We found here they disrupted $400 million in illicit funds. And we found out that stable coins were being used for illicit activities. And then we looked at a report and we found out in that report that Venezuela was one particular one. And it happened when, look at the second sentence, cross-border financial infrastructure and stablecoins in 2025 using Tether remains central to domestic financial. And it was an alternate to sanctions in Venezuela. And then last but not least, I showed you this graph here, which shows you the 2024, June to September, lack of a lot of use of stable coins, then sanctions and a high increase, 6, 7, 8 million in stable coins. I cannot ignore that in October of 2025. So now let's move on to why stuff started moving. Now, in this article, what you will find out if you look a little bit deeper, we have a number. In the poly market, it was a few million, but this one's a larger number. We're looking at Forbes magazine, and there are one source I'm reporting here. The value of the crypto holdings connected to President Trump's ecosystem increased by an estimated 140 million following actions targeting Venezuela oil operations. To be clear, this does not prove causation, but it does establish something very important. There was money on the table. And again, correlation is not causation. That's what I told you right here at the very beginning. Correlation is not causation. However, I do have to bring up the what is flashing in front of me, that when prediction markets on January 5th and geopolitical actions such as sanctions and oil tankers and financial gains begin to appearing on my research about Plume Network and TRM Labs, when I'm just simply trying to follow money, I think it's worth to tell you about as an investigator so that you can look for yourself and pay attention to this, because this is the things that TRM Labs is trying to prevent. But Tether, TRON, we found it can be on the other end of that. 140 millions is a huge amount. Trump's World Liberty Financial coin, the Trump family's coin, Trump's crypto holdings surged after the Venezuela oil tankers and a different ecosystem of crypto, specifically $140 million. And someone, a day before the attack, a few groups of small people, I'm talking about just a few, knew that the invasion was going to happen on Polymarket. Is this a coincidence? No, it's not. We got to look at correlation. Let me remind you one more time of why this matters. Remember what we saw when we looked at the beginning of this. We saw the CEO of TRM Labs make a statement. So just in case you just tune in again, let me share that a snippet with you one more time so we can see the correlation, and then I'm going to go into the data.
I'm Esteban Castaño, CEO of TRM Labs. Today, border agencies are facing new challenges as criminals change their tactics. Drug cartels, human traffickers, and terrorist groups are increasingly using cryptocurrency to move illicit funds across borders. Many criminals still believe that crypto is anonymous and untraceable. But the reality is that with software like TRM Labs, law enforcement can trace cryptocurrency in real time. Until now, the crypto wallet didn't serve investigative value. There's critical financial intelligence that's being missed because law enforcement didn't have the tools to triage that evidence. Instantly see the transaction volume, current portfolio holdings, any related entities, and if there are any historical transactions linked to illicit activity. And for more complex cases, for instance, if the wallet has activity that looks like money laundering, you can escalate the evidence to a specialist who can use TRM forensics to trace the funds and determine the next steps. At TRM Labs, we're turning what once seemed like invisible financial activity into real-time actionable intelligence.
What people thought was secret comes to light. The technology, we have it. The wallets can be traced. Where it's not a wallet, the stablecoins can be traced. There has been an exposure. Don't get distracted. Pay attention. So now that we get this reminder, let me break down 14 points, this new information that I created in conjunction with TRM Labs report that has never been shown before. And let's pay attention. Let me describe this new chart. This is the first time this has ever been shown in the world. This is a creation between my research and TRM Labs. On the bottom half of the screen, what you're looking at is TRM Labs data showing incoming crypto volume associated with Venezuela crypto services from June 2024 to January of 2026. The x-axis represents that time. So that bottom, June to January, 2024 to 2026 of January. The y-axis, that's the vertical, folks, represents the incoming volume measured in US dollars. So we can put together the x-axis, the y-axis, the months from June 24 to 2026, the money coming in. TRM Labs provided this, and I just took this data and I created my research and I integrated mine to see a comparison. Now look at the blue bars to show you the amounts in the bar chart of the value flowing into these services over that period of stablecoins. So that bar chart. Now, the blue bars show the amount of value flowing into those services, and above that graph is a separate timeline built by myself independently, the Underdog Research channel, and I'm highlighting for you my findings, my research onto theirs, so you can have this new product. Now, the key geopolitical and enforcement events that I captured involving Venezuela's oil sector, sanction activities, tanker seizures, and subsequent enforcement actions was taken from the publicly released information online that was from both the White House itself, Pentagon, and public sources. I got it from the horse's mouth. I took the timeline events that we stated that we did in Venezuela, and I correlated that into the graph TRM Labs created about the stablecoin usage and the increase in 2025 from 2024, and I put it here for you to see. Now, the legend in the lower left, I want you to see that, because when we go into this data, you need to understand what I'm saying as I say it. The lower left identifies each event category so you can distinguish reported stablecoin activity, TRM lab observed spikes, and the U.S. enforcement actions and later analysis. And now, here's what immediately stands out to me. So again, I'm going over the graph because I'm about to go into this deep, folks. I'm about to go through these points that you see here. And at the end, we're putting it all together. This is a real world investigation, folks. I told you, I don't just play one on TV. I do this thing. And I want you to see why TRM Labs is important to Plume Network and why Plume Network needs TRM Labs, what they do in a real world investigation to stop the things that you're seeing here. So now let's keep going. What stands out to me about this chart that I created for you here, and I use TRM Labs as a source and my own information as a source. TRM Labs identified significant stablecoin settlement activity during the months of October to November of 2025. Now, notice where the largest spikes occur. Then notice what flows on the timeline. Again, this is correlation, not proof of causation. So I am correlating the events, not saying it caused it. I'll let you fill in the blanks. I'm just going to show you what I found in my research. But when you see unusually large spikes like I'm seeing here, and like TRM Labs saw in financial activity in stablecoins, real world assets before and during major enforcement actions, it's worth asking a question, folks. Are we simply looking at coincidence, or are we observing financial networks and reacting to real world pressure because they need an alternate way to get money? But who is behind the wallet? That's what the sanctions are for. We can't get certain money to certain people, and that's what the institutions want to know, because that money's moving. The institution's like, whoa, I don't want this money. Where's it going? Where's it going? Who has the money? Where's the bad money? We don't want it to come to us, because those bad money, what I tell you, dirty money always seeks to be washed clean and made whole again, baptized in the nature of clean networks. Dirty money doesn't want to be dirty. It wants to get clean. So when $6, $7, $8 million is flowing through Venezuela, it's not just stopping on the side of the road like a car in a traffic jam. It's taking an alternate route, GPS rerouting. Where did the money go? Oh yeah, we're going to get it, folks. Now, I'm sharing this with you because I'm going to walk you through the underdog way. I'm going to simply show you that this is more than a coincidence to me, in my opinion. I'm going to show you what I observed and the financial networks based on the question that I posed to you. Do stable coins and the settlement, does it precede sanctions, and does it have a connection to the oil? And these real world assets, where did the money go once it went to Venezuela? Why did the money go to Venezuela? It was sanctioned. Why did this money go to Venezuela? I thought Venezuela was connected to drug money. Where did it go from there? Let's walk through it with Underdog, my timeline, and let's examine the data. So as we go through, let's see what we see here. What I see here, what I think is important that you see as well, is this. Right here at this point is so important. There was importance in two ways. I've learned in investigations that the absence of information can sometimes tell you just as much, if not more, than the information itself. See, people can lie to you, and sometimes they omit things. People delete information from their cell phones. People burn things. People hide things, whether it's a human being they hide or something of valuable. They try to get rid of evidence. They try to dump it. So sometimes the omission of something, the avoidance of something tells me everything. If I have a cell phone and I'm looking at a cell phone, and you know, I'm a digital forensic examiner as well as part of my education and training and background. If I was examining a cell phone and it was wiped clean of only text messages and only certain images remained, it makes me ask more questions about what was wiped, what was cleaned, and do I need to do forensics to recover it? Is it in somewhere else? Is it in a shared drive? Was it uploaded? Was that your ISP? Did you send it to a friend? That is how investigation goes. You go where the evidence could be. Probable cause, reasonable suspicion, all these legal terms lead us to an answer. This right here leads me to a question. Why? It brings me to April 24th to 24th. When you look at this April of 2024, let's start here. At this point, reports began emerging that Venezuela oil transactions were increasingly being settled using USDT, Tether, and other stablecoins. That's interesting to me. And what's so interesting is you see it on the chart. During this period, incoming volume appears relatively slow, likely in the low millions of dollars. It remains fairly quiet several months in 2024, according to reports of increased Venezuela oil settlements using USDT stablecoins. So it started off real slow in April 2024 on its own. That may not seem significant to you, but you know, folks, I'm an underdog. I look at the meat and I go a little bit deeper than most people. So what I wanted to find out is, throughout this timeline, does it represent something early, non-public indicators that stablecoins were becoming integrated into oil settlement activity? Low millions. And so as I look at this time period right here, that's my question. What does this mean? And you should be asking yourself the same thing, because Plume Network has to ask itself the same thing. Will Plume Network be a victim of dirty money? When the countries themselves are transferring the money, will it end up on one of their networks? And if it does, what are the severe consequences they will pay? Will it shut them down? Or will they survive? Will you lose value? Will they have to pay hundreds of millions out of their vault because of the fact that they made a mistake? Because the governments are unforgiving. And just like this data, we got to find out what this means. Now, going to October, now the story starts to get even more interesting, folks. Now, remember where we started in April of 2024? I just showed you that. Real world assets in the form of stablecoins tied to Venezuela increased. And it appeared relatively small before in 2024 in April. However, after I take a second look at it, and we fast forward to October to November 2025, even TRM Labs stands up. And suddenly, we're seeing something different. Suddenly, the largest concentration of activity anywhere on this timeline is those months. Why? Is that something happened? Look at my chart, folks. Do stablecoin settlement spikes precede sanctions and tanker seizures? October to November 2025, look at the spikes. You can't ignore it. You can't change the subject. TRM Labs identifies this period as a significant spike in stablecoin settlement activity. Looking at the chart, the volume explodes from previously low levels. I just showed it to you in April of 2024 through September of 2024. It explodes. Why? Was there a new law passed? It appears to me that millions, tens of millions of dollars flowing through the ecosystem with repeated high volume spikes occurring throughout both months. The question is, I want you to think about a simple question. Is it a coincidence? Because immediately after that period of time, we begin to see a cascade of U.S. enforcement actions. It's just a coincidence, someone might think. I don't think so. It expanded pressure campaigns from the United States, additional enforcement operations, public reporting follows shortly afterwards. Now, again, I'm showing this chart right here for a reason. This chart does not prove causation. I keep saying it because it's showing correlation, but it does reveal to me something investigators, analysts, and intelligence professionals pay close attention to, and that is timing, folks. Timing. What caught my attention as the Underdog Research channel, who's been doing this for over 2 decades and a half, what caught my attention wasn't just the volume, folks. It was the sequence of events. Now, let's go back, folks. I need to remind you, I said at the beginning of this, someone's going to be upset. I said at the beginning of this, something was off. I told you at the beginning of this, something was happening that's triggering this. And I couldn't put my finger quite on it. It all started to come clear. We see it with our own eyes. Again, this chart does not prove causation. It's correlation, but it does reveal something very interesting if you pay close to it. What caught my attention was the sequence, the low activity, then a dramatic surge, then the series of enforcement actions with the U.S. And as we move through the rest of this timeline, I ask you to pay attention to the same thing. If you're monitoring the transactions in real time, would this have been an early warning indicator worth investigating right here in 2024 that would have let you see the writing on the wall? That would have made you see right here that there was something happening, which brings me to December 10th of 2025. Now, folks, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So December 10th of 2025, what happened? December 10th of 2025, there was a surge of activity prior to December 10th of 2025. Millions of dollars in stablecoin real world assets flowed into the country sanctioned by the United States, Venezuela. Where did the freaking money come from? And where did it go? It didn't just disappear, folks. And now December 10th of 2025, what do you see? What are we seeing here? We're seeing it. This is the first major event that appears after October, November, after the money flowed into the country. Activity surged. We've been tracking this. I'm showing it to you just weeks after the highest in the history of the country, to my knowledge, stablecoin settlement activity observed on stablecoins and real world assets that I showed you in this chart. The United States of America authorities announced the seizure of a tanker called Skipper, which was reportedly carrying Venezuelan crude oil. Now look at it, folks. I didn't make this up. I'm showing it to you. I was shocked as you. The crypto is connected to the oil. For months, activity remained relatively low in 2024. It spiked October, dramatically spiked in October, November, and almost immediately after the spike, it's 30 days, it went back down and enforcement action enters the picture. Am I saying that blockchain activity caused the seizure? No. But as a researcher, I would be absolutely foolish not to tell you that I don't have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a brain that says I'm going to pay attention because I follow money and my content that I provide you is major changes in the crypto sphere that could affect you. Do you have money that's sitting in a company And in the next few years, it could be sanctioned because of actions of the past. Do you have money that is intermingling right now in a company that could cause you to lose your money? I am for the little guy. I will never, ever be for the big guy. I am for the little guy because your money matters. Make sure you're paying attention, folks, because when sanctions do occur now or in the future, companies who were not in compliance, people that weren't in compliance, individuals who participate in illicit activity, then whatever administration governments are in charge at that time, there will be retribution to be paid. And you can either wait and see, or you can do something about it now, because I don't want to get caught with my hands in a cookie jar that I didn't even know I was eating. Now, these major changes in transaction behavior are followed by significant real-world events, folks. What makes this noteworthy to me is that the seizure of that skipper boat in Venezuela doesn't occur during the peak in October, November. No. It occurs after the peak. By December, transaction volume appears to be declining again from its October, November highs, suggesting that whatever was happening during that period had already occurred. Let me say it for y'all. Y'all, okay, I'm about to bust out this jacket. I'm busting out this jacket. I didn't want to do it. So got me about to bust out this jacket. Did y'all hear me? Are you seeing it? You want to know about Plume Network and TRM Labs? I'm showing you a real world investigation. I'm sharing it with you right now. Listen to what I'm telling you, folks. By December of 2025, when the United States seized the Venezuela vessel called Skipper of all that oil, all of a sudden, the 6, 7, 8 millions of dollars in transactions 30 days later goes away. It declines afterwards, which suggests that whatever was happening during that period of time that it spiked had already occurred. The money bag was already got. And before the public enforcement action became visible of taking the tanker. Let me go back, because y'all think I'm playing with you today. I'm not playing with you. I want you to see what I'm seeing. Let's go back to the top. Let's go back to the top. I got to put it 2 and 2 together, and it just makes sense to me. Let's read it again. Let's read this again. Polymarket insider on Venezuela bet allegedly linked to Trump World Liberty Financial, January 5th, 2026. What follows is a sequence of events that at minimum deserves a little bit closer look. Look at this, folks. The timeline, December 10th, October to November, we see a spike. Millions rush into Venezuela. Sanction happens. 30 days later, the wallet's empty, folks. Somebody knew it was going to happen. It was largely reported January 6th. But the problem is, January 7th, just 24 hours later, the timeline says there's a shift. It says in this article how Trump attack on Venezuela may have made him money. Depositing Latin America's foremost dictator seems to be lifted the prices of present crypto-tied assets. World Liberty Financial Coin, according to this one source, there's multiple sources, increased. The Trump crypto holdings surged after Venezuela oil tanker seizures. It surged and made $140 million directly. Where did it come from? What networks did it flow through? we're going to keep talking about TRM Labs and its connection to real world assets and how it finds money. We're going to keep talking about how TRM Labs is connected to Plume Network and how it has 184 chains. It's linked to it. $1.9 billion assets are tracked from it. $3.1 billion attributed addresses are to it. It's comprehensive. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Tether, which was counted for by TRM Labs in the T3, who $400 million, or actually, let's correct that, $450 million as of 14 May of 2026, after December of 2025, was found to have flowed through Tether. We're going to talk about the TRM Labs found connections through their technology that's in T3. Who's T3? TRON, Tether, TRM Labs. What we find out, 400 million was deconflicted, connected to law enforcement, financial institutions, crypto businesses, and they found it. And we're going to talk about the fact we're not going to ignore that this money came from somewhere. Let's keep going, folks. So as we looked December, as I just said to you, and I'll say it again, this money came from somewhere. And we found that, and it raises the question, is this an early signal? Should investigators focus on this? I think that we should. I think that you should. Now, the skipper is taken by the U.S. We take that oil. Coincidence, right? The money that spiked in October, November disappears. Millions of dollars disappears. Coincidence, all of a sudden, the World Liberty Financial, their crypto tied to this Venezuela events increases 140 million. Just a coincidence, just correlation. I'll let you decide. But for me, I'm seeing some things happening here. So we're seeing this right here. That's time period, folks. Here's the time period, December 10th, 2025, U.S. seizure of the tanker Skipper. Let's look at 7 days later. On December 17th of 2025, just 1 week after seizure of the Skipper, the pressure appears to intensify. Reports emerge of expanded U.S. pressure campaigns and additional blockade-related measures targeting Venezuela oil operations. What's fascinating to me is where this event sits on the timeline. Now, the largest stablecoin that we see settlement activity had occurred around October, November, if you remember, of 2025. By mid-December, transaction volumes appear to have dropped significantly from their peak levels, falling back toward what we might describe as a moderate or even low activity compared to the surge we saw during the sanction period first started, right? And then we observed that in April of 2024 to September of 2024, and then a surge in October of 2025 to November of 2025. Now think about this dates. That sequence is a moment. Then December 10th of 2025, we see the seizure of the tanker. Now we're at December 17th, first reports of stablecoin use of oil settlements. Then a dramatic spike in blockchain activity again. Then the tanker seizure. And now, only 7 days later, expanded enforcement pressure for the United States. Again, correlation, folks, not causation. Correlation. Just correlating. Just a coincidence, right, to some people. But from an intelligence perspective, and I'm looking at this as Plume Intelligence, this is the Plume Intelligence report, this timeline raises an important question because you need to see how TRM Labs works on the Plume Network, the Nest product, what it will do to prevent this type of thing, because you have your money on this and you can, unless you got millions of dollars, you might want to pay attention so you can know if the other technologies you have are implementing this to prevent you from getting harmed. Everyone cares about institutions and institutional investors. Does anyone care about the retail investor? Let me help you to care about yourself by giving you this information. Now, I'm an investigator. I'm a researcher. And I look at these policymakers reacting to this activity as well. They see the oil and they see the crypto coin. They see the World Liberty Finance surge as correlating, not causation, to Venezuela that has already taken place. It's already done. Now, were the enforcement actions disrupting activity, or is it still going on? Again, It's correlation. What I found the most interesting, folks, is that the blockchain activity, when I looked into it myself, provides a very visible timeline if you pay attention to it. Oh, yes, that can be compared against real world events. Real world assets, real world events. Matter of fact, let's talk about this December 17th. The transaction occurs first, then the enforcement actions become public later. And as we move down this, and I'm going to show you in the next slide, you'll see this pattern doesn't stop here. The additional tanker-related enforcement actions continue to happen and emerge in Venezuela, making October-November spike increasingly difficult to ignore as a point of analytical and research interest. So as I look at this, and we're looking at this time period that you're seeing right here, folks, it is so very interesting. Let's keep going. We're moving to January 7th to 2026. So now, I didn't talk you from April of 2024 through the spike, this pre-sanction period, the $158 billion increase in 2025. We know who was in office in the United States and England and Iran and Iraq and China and Japan and South Korea and North Korea. We know in Russia, we know who the leaders of the countries were in 2024 and 2025. Now in 2026, let's talk about 2026, January 7th, 2026. By this point of this investigation in TRM Labs and Plume Network, to see the power of what you can find through TRM Labs on a network, what we find in this Venezuela example is this point. We're no longer looking at a single enforcement action. We're looking at a pattern, folks. Additional tanker seizures are now being reported. Extending the enforcement campaign, that began just weeks earlier. Now, what's remarkable to me, what's really remarkable to Underdog is that these actions continue to occur and no one's reporting it. Why? Why are we so afraid to see what's right in front of us? October, November, stablecoin surged, identified by TRM Labs report. I didn't say it. TRM Labs shows you. Look at the chart. Look at the chart, folks. Additional tanker seizures now being reported. And look at the chart. You can see it. The largest transaction volumes are already behind us. Those happened way back here. That's the largest transaction volumes happened October, November. That's 1 month, 30 days. So right here, as we look at January, those large transactions are behind us. That creates an intriguing and analytical question for me. If the largest transactions are behind us, activity has fallen down dramatically from its spike, dropping what appears to be high volume settlement activity into much lower levels, yet enforcement actions continue to emerge. So what am I saying? Underdog, what are you saying? We're trying to understand it. The enforcement was consistent. So why did it spike? Where did the money go? I told you money don't get parked on the side of the road in a traffic. If it's a traffic jam, it finds an alternate route. Where did the money go? Were authorities uncovering this in full scope? Did they tell you the activity occurred? What happened to the money and during November? Well, I know one company that had a stable coin, World Liberty Finance, that the reporting of it increased, given $140 million during that time period. Now, seizures were the conversation globally about the oil, but while you're not watching, the other hand is making sleight of hand. While you're distracted, they move the other pieces. You wasn't watching the crypto. There's too many things to watch. So this is what happened. This broader effort to disrupt these networks had already shifted significant value through stable coins. It was already happened. Too late. Money was already passed, folks. And these transactions, that's what TRM Labs reported on. What stood out to TRM Labs and what stood out to me is the lag between the blockchain activity and public enforcement action. Why is law enforcement seeing this too, taking so long to stop it? This is a big deal. Don't we want to stop drugs? Remember fentanyl? Remember violence? Remember What happened to that? Why is law enforcement seeing this data and not taking actions to stop the money? Why wasn't this a big national event? $158 billion moved and no one stopped it. Must be a coincidence, because correlation doesn't mean causation, right, folks? The transactions become visible first to me, and the seizures become visible later. For me, as an investigator and a researcher, compliance professionals, intelligence analysts, we all would likely see this the same way. That's exactly why blockchain monitoring of TRM Labs on Plume Network is so valuable. I am showing you, instead of telling you that Plume has a partnership or they integrated TRM Labs, I am showing you a real world investigation. Welcome to my world, folks. Welcome to the Underdog Research channel. I love it. I eat it up. I eat the bone, the meat, the marrow. I grind it up. I put it in my hair and my face. That's how I have a luxurious beard. Thank you for watching. This is what you need to do to understand the power of what you have in your pocket. The power of having a technology that's integrated with Forta Network, with Predicate, with EY Nightfall, and with TRM Labs. I am showing you what the network of Plume can see, what they can offer to institutions. If there's between them and another RWA project, the question that you're not researching is, does that RWA offering from that company or token have these integrated as a selling point to an institution who may want to park their trillions in it? If they don't, they can get the dirty money. And if they do, then you are at risk. That's the point of this conversation. So I'm showing you this right now using Venezuela. I'm giving you a real world investigation. It's not like TV. We don't just type in for 45 minutes. This took me time, resources to put it together to you. I want to give you an introduction, and I want you to see that the money moved, and I follow the money. And then the next bit of my timeline, you'll see pressure campaign for the United States, and it's still not over. So as we look to this, and we look at this money moving on January 7th, let's move to the next point right here. Now look at this, folks. January 22nd, 2026. We're still looking and asking the same question. Do stablecoin settlement spikes precede sanctions and tanker oil seizures? Venezuela stablecoin activity versus U.S. enforcement timeline. TRM Labs is my source. They did the work. I'm giving them credit for every source between the 2024 April through January of 2026 and beyond. Almost 2 years of reporting. They did the work. I will give credit. No plagiarism here. I did my work on researching U.S. events from Congress stated, White House stated, Pentagon stated, and public sources to show you what was verified as U.S. events interacting with Venezuela and putting it together and showing you the correlations. Now, let's keep going. January 22nd, 2026. At this point, it's clear to me, we're not looking at an isolated event. We're looking at sustained enforcement campaign. Just over 3 months earlier, TRM Labs identified largest stablecoin settlement activity in the history of the world happened on this timeline in 2025. Since then, we've seen a tanker seized by the U.S., expanded pressure measures by the U.S. against Venezuela, additional tanker seizures in the U.S., and now continued enforcement and sanctions operations targeting sanctioned oil transportation networks. But here's what stands out to the underdog, what should stand out to you, what you're here for. The transaction activity has largely disappeared. I'm going to ask it again, and I'm going to say it again and again, and someone's going to answer. Who's going to answer for me? Where is the money? Pause for dramatic effect. I'm waiting. I follow the money. I can't ignore millions of dollars going into the country that's sanctioned in 30 days from October to November of 2025. It disappeared. Where did it go? It's on a blockchain. Isn't it traceable? Isn't it traceable, folks? Isn't that the point of blockchain technology? Visible, traceable, transparent. It was traced by TRM Labs. They know where it went. I know where it went. You know where it went. I want you to say it. Where is the money? Whose money was it? I think you know the answer. So the transaction activity largely disappeared. But compare the chart now to what we saw in October, November, and January 2026. We see this January 22nd, 2026, the massive spikes are gone. They're gone, folks. Activity appears to have fallen to the lowest levels with only occasional small bursts of volume remaining. We have seen this before. Why is this not clear to everybody? It's called a rug pull. They drain the freaking wallets. Who is the they? They drained the money, but where did it come from? Crypto market has went down. Bitcoin dropped from $120,000 in the last 2 years to under $60,000 in recent times. Where did it go? A meme coin was released in 2024, two to be exact, by certain companies and also connected to a certain administration, and it flew all the way up to billions of dollars in minutes. And what is it trading for now? It will never, ever acquire that money again. Someone took the money and you let them do it. And you don't want to see it. But I see it. And I'm showing you the connection while Plume Network may survive the changes that will be coming forthwith in the future, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. If we need something to survive, we need it to not allow for people, companies, countries to take money from you. It is your money that's being taken. And that money is being redistributed only to the richest of the rich. And you're left trying to scrape. I hope that goes up a penny. I can't wait till my token gets to $1. We sound like we are mice scraping and scraping for the utterance of anything positive because we refuse to see the data. TRM Labs connection to Plume Network gives us the eyes to stop this type of illicit transactions that can occur on these networks before, because the stablecoins are real world assets. I need you to understand and take that from this conversation. Now, when you compare this chart, we see the money has been taken now, folks. We saw the rug pull, an economic global rug pull in real time, in my opinion. The massive spikes are gone. Activity appears to have fallen after the spike. The money flowed in, the money flowed out with only an occasional burst as they scrape the barrel of that whoever is holding the bag. Someone got left holding the bag. That creates a fascinating question. Did law enforcement action help disrupt the activity, or did activity naturally decline before the enforcement campaign became public? We don't know from this chart alone. What we do know is that the timeline shows a clear sequence. First, the transaction surged in October, November, then the enforcement actions. Then we see it. And just when it appears the enforcement phase may be winding down, one final event occurs that brings the entire timeline together. On the next slide, I'm going to show you this. You can see the public analysis. You can finally see it with your own eyes. Allows everyone to look back and examine for yourself the sequence of events. And when we see it, we can't help but to pay attention. So here we are in the timeline. Here we're going to. Here we go, folks. So February the 5th of 2026, we're almost at the mountaintop. Stay with me, folks. I told you, this is an investigation. I haven't gotten to Iran yet. I'll be on the next one. This is just Venezuela. I'm showing you what's happening in real time. February 5th, 2026. This is where the timeline comes full circle for underdogs. This is where I love it. If you're not with me to the end, that's for you. I am excited. Hope you keep going because I love when I discover something that no one's reported on but the Underdog Research channel right now. Look at the timeline. After months of enforcement action, tanker seizures, sanctions, pressure, and operational disruptions, the public analysis I'm showing you of the tanker seizure campaign is finally released to everyone. What had previously been a series of individual siloed events can now be viewed as a part of a broader picture, a pattern, folks. Think about the sequence we've just walked through. April 2024, reports emerged that Venezuela oil settlements are increasingly utilizing stablecoins. Then October, November 2024, October, November 2025, TRM Labs observes the largest spike in stablecoin activity anywhere on this chart. In fact, TRM Labs reported $158 billion, the largest increase of real-world assets in stablecoins in the history of the world. What caused it to spike? Do you remember that? 2024 low spike. Venezuela, 2024 low spike. Who were the people in charge prior to 2024? Something changed. More illicit activity happened. I thought it was supposed to go down. More crime happened. More human trafficking money came through. More fentanyl-connected drugs came through. More illegal trafficking and murder for hire and all the things that go wrong happen through the payments through stablecoins using Tether. More, not less. December and January, a series of tanker seizures enforcement actions continue to happen. Pressure from the United States campaigns unfold. And finally, in February of 2026, my analysis I'm showing you and what's been published here, allowing everyone to see clearly. Look back, folks, and connect the dots. Let me show you. We see, but we don't want to believe it. But it demonstrates to me something incredibly important. Blockchain activity creates a visible record. Okay, folks, y'all don't understand. We are in crypto. Blockchain creates a record. It will always be there. Now and forever. It's immutable. It doesn't change. I'm telling you, if you got your money in cryptocurrencies and companies that may be participating or have in the past participated with any sanctioned individuals, countries, or peoples, then in the future, they are at risk. And that means you are at risk. Now, does this chart prove that October-November activity caused enforcement actions? No, it don't. But it does demonstrate something, like I said, it's incredible to me. Blockchain activity creates a visible record. And it can be analyzed. And that's what I did. This whole investigation is me showing you what I can do with a little bit of time, research, and knowledge. And you can too. What I found compelling is that the single seizure or enforcement action, it was a sequence of events, a pattern. There was early indicators in 2024 April and a massive spike in activity afterwards. Then after 30 days, the money flowed out and they kept doing the same enforcement actions. So something was the catalyst for it to come to their country. It wasn't the sanctions. That's the same thing in place. What was the catalyst? Who benefited? Who made money? Now, exactly why partnerships like Plume Network and TRM Labs matter. This is Plume Network TRM Labs report number 2 of my 4-part series. In the future, I'll do other talks. I'll talk about Iran as well, and I'll show you some absolutely magnificent research that you will love to see and connect it to TRM Labs and Plume Network and what we have to come. real world assets are increasingly moving on chain. That means real money is connected to that value. Visibility, transparency is important, and risk intelligence. Let me say it again. We don't talk about it enough. The risk with your investments is no longer just price action, folks. It becomes just as important as transactions themselves, the risk. Sometimes the biggest story isn't about the price and what it could be, but the story is about what already happened and when it happened. As you look through this, folks, I'm sharing this with you. I put this up here. I took my time to create each and every slide for you, handpicked with data that you can check, cross-reference, fact check. I've given you data points. And when it's my opinion, I tell you it's my opinion. Look at the February 5th, 2026. This is the area we're now talking to in the timeline. Now, let's move past it. Let's talk about this area right here. As we finalize the next 2 to 3 visuals in my timeline, and I'll conclude this conversation, what caught my attention wasn't the spike itself, actually. It wasn't. I know I spent a lot of time talking about it because I wanted you to see, but what happened before the spike, remember I told you the omission and absence of evidence for me can be just as important as the evidence itself. If I have an investigation and I need your cell phone and I have a search warrant or subpoena, and I'm making this example because a digital forensic scientist, we take in digital evidence. And you know that that's part of the things that I do. And if I have your cell phone and it's wiped clean, that doesn't mean that evidence doesn't exist. I use tools to recover that. And if it's not there, you can look at other places. It's almost impossible to get rid of digital evidence today. I'm telling you, it's stored everywhere. Your Alexa, your car, the street lights, the cameras, your phones, every single thing you have around you, whether you have direct or indirect or no control at all, keeps a record. You log into your computer, you log out. If you're in the government, you're not in the government, you go to DMV, social security numbers, passports, planes, data-driven society. And the absence of the evidence is just as important. So before the spike in October, November, and the 30 days of millions of dollars are flowing through Venezuela, there was 4 months in 2024, transaction activity remained relatively quiet. Volumes appear relatively low in the same country. Did stablecoins not exist in 2024 April? They did. With only a minor fluctuations, then almost overnight, snap a finger, just like that. The pattern changes. October, November become the most active period of the entire chart. Now, I'm not the smartest person in the world. Maybe someone will watch this and they get mad because I talked about things that I showed you data for, and you call me low IQ even. Maybe. To some, I definitely probably will be. But from my intelligence perspective, from my investigation into Plume Network and TRM Labs of what they do, and my investigation of TRM Labs report, which I'm sure they have a lot of smart people there who provided that original report, this is important because it establishes a baseline. Yeah, the baseline, you can't identify everything, but you can identify anomalies. And anomalies I see is June through September period shows us normal activity. That's what it looks like, how it should look. That baseline is what makes October, November of 2025 activity right before these big major sanctions and seizures occurred so dramatically different. The absence of evidence shows us a lot, but this is also where Plume Network story begins. Because what you're looking at here is more than just a chart that Underdog Research channel is showing you about stablecoins and activity in Venezuela tied to oil transactions. That's for people who have low IQ, as they would say, and don't want to see more other than price action. But you're following my channel. You're not following me for price action because I don't talk about it. You're watching me and this information because blockchain networks reveal more. They reveal itself in real time. They expose every transaction. It leaves a footprint. Every transfer contributes to my analysis to a larger pattern. When we view it, folks, collectively, those patterns can expose relationships, identify beneficiaries, reveal activity, and that may otherwise remain unhidden. Let Underdog reveal it for you, folks. Behind the traditional financial system lies the truth. And that truth that we're seeing, whether the issue is sanction evasion, illicit finance, drug connected cartel money, market manipulation, or movements of value across borders. Following a flow of digital assets for me makes me excited. It makes me want to know. It tells me a story. People lie to me. The data tells me the truth. The story, long before headlines, was already there. Enforcement actions or public reports emerged afterwards. This is exactly where the integration of TRM Labs comes in play into the Plume Network. The ecosystem becomes valuable with Plume Network because this is the product that they can provide institutions to prevent illicit activity like we see in Venezuela happening. We don't want that dirty money. Say it with me. We don't want the dirty money, Underdog. Real world assets, folks, are stablecoins and are brought on chain, on blockchain, like Plume Networks network itself, like Nest and Plume's infrastructure and products such as Nest Vaults. TRM Labs provides that for them. The intelligence layer is what I'm showing you. I am using this technology to show you the power of it. Identify the actors. I'm sharing with you the wizard. Do you want to know who Oz is? Potentially illicit transactions, unusual activity patterns, sanctions from the US exposed the crypto move. You was distracted with the oil, but you find out now the real play. $140 million minimum was gathered through one spike, through World Liberty Finance, from sanctioned money, benefiting from the Venezuela actions by the US. History will remember the transactions were locked, and it explains a lot. Who is the priority and who's not? The goal is not simply to monitor the transactions, TRM Labs, that's not the goal. Nope. It's not simply to understand what transactions may be telling us. That's still not the point. The reason I'm taking so much time to share this with you, in many cases, blockchain intelligence that I'm sharing with you is off limits to you as a retail investor. And only the highest bidders get the benefit of the services I'm sharing with you right now, the things I do. I want to give you this high level information for you to take, to quantify, to think about, and refer to. So the next time you make a choice about who you want to watch, consider that. Will they go to CoinMarketCap and tell you what you want to hear, or are you going to get the real information, the hidden information? Like it or love it, I'm showing you researchable facts. So I want you to identify the individuals. The purpose of this, to identify the organizations, the criminal networks, or even the nation states, actors who are using the crypto networks, and they're going to ruin it for you because they're going to mix their dirty money. Their sick, dirty, filthy, disgusting money. And they're going to mix it into one of your wallets because the companies that you invested in on Coinbase, that someone hyped to you, that you didn't research because you thought it was too much, didn't do their job. And they didn't do their job. And so now you're sitting with their dirty money. And when the day of reckoning comes and governments look at the blockchain, they trace the illicit funds, they will find They will destroy, they will shut down the companies who participated. Look at XRP. Let that be a lesson for every single person before 7 years before they got out of the lawsuit with the SEC. Look what happened. You don't think it'll happen again? You think because the Clarity Act and Genius Act, it will save you? That's about securities. We're talking about these companies violating the new laws. Don't let your money rug pulled from you by the shadow companies, governments, and people. Wake up and see the power of the companies who are thinking about the future. I can't promise you that any token, any company will survive because we don't know what happened tomorrow. But what I can share with you with full confidence, if a company is in violation of the laws now, when there's no regulation truly that is over it, when the regulations come, they will be found with more monitoring to have violated anti-money laundering laws. They will have found to have been violated sanctioned money coming into intermingling with their money, and they will be fined until they're bankrupt. They will go to zero. And no matter how good the technology you think you have is, it will be worth nothing. Please pay attention to Underdog Research channel when I'm telling you, this is not just about TRM Labs and Plume Network. This is about having vision. Nation state actors are participating in crypto, and that may be operating right now on the tokens that you have in your pocket. Tether admitted they were part of it. They didn't want to be. They inadvertently was. For what they say, $400 million, actually $450 million, utilizing Tether in Venezuela. Now, this is the area we're talking about. This low area, something changed. Last but not least, this is where we're at. We went through, we've talked about it. This particular period of time, October to November of 2026, what we found was a spike. And then what we learned was a pattern. And what you now see is the problem that Plume Network and TRM Labs together purports to resolve. Compliance-based infrastructure for institutions to allow their money to be parked without worrying about the person on the other end of the wallet hacking them, intermingling dirty money with them, being later sanctioned and fined by the government, being in a lawsuit that will do what happened to XRP, drive down the price to almost non-existence, keep them so tangled up in red tape that the people who started 10 years ago in that particular project, a lot of them got out of it, who missed opportunities of wealth because of the lawsuits. That is what you learn. That is it, folks. You have now received part 2 of the Plume TRM Labs series. And the next conversation, I'll be bringing you to the Iran war connection explained, the connection between Plume Network and TRM Labs, blockchain intelligence, real world assets, episode number 3. I'm going to finish and finally say to you and everyone who's watched today that the information I presented to you is my views based on my research and my opinions and the express opinions of my First Amendment right to say them. And nothing that you receive today should be construed as financial advice. I also have to say the same thing I started with, that correlation is not causation. This is my opinion. Let you make your own mind, because I never tell you what to think. But this is the data and research I use. So please, I will time code this video. I'll go back and you'll see a time code. Go back to the section applicable to you and find out if this information helps you to understand. I'm going to allow everyone here to get an opportunity to share who showed up, and then get ready to watch, share this, become a member. If you want to see this level of research, become a member at the analyst level. I am the #1 content creator in this space of Plume Network and more. I share with you more than Plume Network. I share with you today on investigation. I hope that you become a member, and if not, subscribe and become a part of the Underdog Research crew. So let's see who is here. Thank you very much for being here today. Let me acknowledge who has come. So today we have, starting at the top, we have Fatima F1F404. He has a E. He is here today. Thank you for showing up today. I appreciate you coming. That was me. I was telling everyone when the live stream was starting in 15 minutes. I know y'all are here and you showed up. Phantom Beat, I hit the Plume dip. So Plume dropped down, sub penny. Maybe it's an opportunity for you. I also hit the Plume dip. I have a goal. I have a clear goal of what's in mind, and red or green is for me. I want to get into my goal. So do your own research, make your own decisions, but I hit that too. Thank you, Phantom Beat, for showing up. We got Fatima Underdog. I'm tired of thanking you, because even if we thanked you every day from now until 100 years from now, it still wouldn't be enough. Thank you again from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I try to give you some good information, so I'm glad that you find it valuable. I hope that you enjoyed. Y'all saw an investigation today, folks, and new information, so that's why I went longer than usual. I want to make sure I share that with you. All right, so what else we have here? We have also Phantom B, actually Fatima says, Underdog, Kevin O'Leary said that the next big thing in crypto could be blockchain that manages to attract at least one company from each of the 11 sectors of the S&P 500. And Plume Network is already attracting big companies, so maybe that's something you should pay attention to. We have Phantom Beat, best deep diver that ever was and ever will be, the Underdog. I appreciate that. I feel really happy about this topic. I'm glad that y'all had the opportunity to watch it. Thank you, and I appreciate the compliment. We got Fatima, what do you think? Which chain do you believe they choose? And do fees really matter that much? There are other projects with lower fees compared to Plume. However, when it comes to institutions, I think like regulation, compliance, security, and adoption may be far more important than simply having the lowest fees. What is known doesn't need to be spoken. I 100% agree with your assertion. You started with a question about what's more important. I think this video outlined that companies are wanting to know who's at the other end of that transaction. And so fees are important to a certain extent, but compliance, getting sanctioned, will cost you way more than fees. So I agree with you that that's more important. We got Max Pomo, sup Underdog UD. Good to see you, Max Pomo. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you sticking with me. We got Max Pomo. You're awesome, bro. Well, I appreciate that compliment. I try to give y'all the best research possible. You compare me to others. Let's see what you think. I hope that you enjoy this conversation. Thank you. We got Crypto Crossroads Show. Just put my barber up on Plume. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Crypto Crossroads Show has its own show, Crypto. He covers a lot of technologies, that especially one has to do with Red Belly, Mocha, and many others, Lightning, and he shares identity that is going to be a blockchain narrative that's already in play. Identity is big, so thank you. We got Tevin King, 8931. Hit the like button for the weekly Plume Report. Thank you very much. I will start back that weekly Plume Report right after I finish this TRM Labs series. Thank you, Tevin. They stole it, brother. That's universal. They stole it. If you watch this, what's known don't need to be spoken. That money was taken. And watch this again. We got Tony Zebek, all right, promoting his Zebek. I see the sign, get your Natics before it runs out. Okay, are you going to promote this video? That's what I want to know. Tony, let's go Underdog Research. There we go. I appreciate that. You're going to crash a Plume party to give me Zebek. I don't be crashing the Zebek party to give you Plume, but I respect it. I appreciate you showing up. Thank you for being here. We got Hiro Tanami, a member. I recall Bo Hinks worked on Genius Act. Then suddenly he got sacked to go work with Tether. Sounds a bit sus. I told you, the connections, folks. When you follow the money, you see it. And last but not least, Hiro Tanami, Tether has to be audited. Can't argue with the man. All right, folks. That is all. Thank you all for showing up. Are you going to be here for episode 3? Was this too much for you? Did you enjoy what you heard? Are you going to press share when you finish? Are you going to like and subscribe? Are you going to become a member? If you choose not to remember what you see publicly may not give you the full picture. I want those who are in that small group of people who want to research past the narratives to right now join my platform and become a member at the analyst level. I want those who are tired of hearing shilling and tired of hearing FUD who want a content creator or researcher that can provide you more insights to press subscribe and set notifications. And all others, if you're just here for a casual visit, thank you for coming and watching. And until next time, this has been the Underdog Research Channel with Plume Network Report. Take care. With the Iran War Connection Explained, number 3 coming up. I want to make sure I tell you that before I go. And so take care of yourself, folks.
Be la plume goons to start down, need permission, I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts for the cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the house at. Spun the block, turns out I be in Black Rock. Protocol, treasuries, bars on me, got them padlocked. Been the best out, they can imitate. You're the best out, then you integrate. Ask Kondo, who Rambo, drew first blood, boy, I been a great. Everybody think they star, boy. I'm in orbit. Stella still, hella Stella, though. I like Swift better for the corporates. I'm the enterprise, I put the knives. Hamilton on chain. Zero knowledge, always never improvise. The White House, know my name.